Welcome all to yet another video. Dr. R.S. and you on science of cosmetics and personal care products. Today we are in part 69. We are moving to hair from skin. So today we will be discussing about hair cleansing shampoo. Before getting into this section, please go through the following parts which we have already discussed. Hair structure, very important. Building blocks, surfactants, very important, right? You have to get into the surfactants fully to understand this and all the other parts which I have mentioned here. Part 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and part 9, hair structure. Right, go through that before getting into shampoo. Shampoo. Washing the hair and scalp has become a near universal practice. This method of doing so depends on both geographic and economic factors. Shampoos assumed importance as a product category with the advent of synthetic detergents. These were developed in 1930s, became widely used in laundry markets in mid-1940s and appeared in shampoo format during 1950s. Shampoos are probably the most widely used hair products today based on synthetic detergents. They are relatively insensitive to water hardness. We said soaps are sensitive to water hardness. What happens? Water hardness is caused by calcium and magnesium salts. So in hard water, soaps can precipitate out. So calcium and in the presence of high calcium and magnesium salts, that is hard water, soaps foam very less. But synthetic surfactants are very insensitive to water hardness. That is, hardness in water will not affect the cleansing and foaming properties of the synthetic detergents, thus allowing for efficient rinsing since there is no scum residues because of calcium and magnesium salts in hard water. In early days, a shampoo could be defined as an effective cleansing agent for, what is the definition of a shampoo early days? In early days, shampoo could be defined as an effective cleansing agent for hair and scalp. But today, shampoo must do much more. It must leave the hair easy to comb, lustrous and comfortable whilst being convenient and easy to use. So, definition of a shampoo is an effective cleansing agent for hair and scalp, leaving the hair easy to comb, lustrous and comfortable whilst being convenient and easy to use. That is the definition of a shampoo. What are the requirements of a good shampoo? It should remove the sebum, secretion of sebaceous glands on the, especially it's in the scalp, right? And atmospheric pollutants from the hair and scalp. Remove the residues of previously applied hair treatments, example, polymeric constitution from styling lotions, hair sprays, to deliver an optimum level of foam to satisfy the expectation of the user. Foam well in hot water, cold water and also when used with hard water. To leave hair in a satisfactory condition after rinsing so that it can be combed easily both in wet and dry state. Leave the hair shiny and manageable. To perform as a vehicle for deposition of beneficial materials onto the hair and scalp. To be non-toxic and non-irritating to the hair and scalp. To be non-damaging to the tissues of the eye if inadvertently splashed. Have good perfume, retain on hair after shampooing. should have optimum viscosity, rheological properties, no flow properties, should be optimum, should have good spreading properties, should not support microbial growth, should have shelf life of 2 to 3 years, should be at an affordable cost. These are the requirement of a shampoo. Shampoos are usually classified according to function. Example, anti-dandruff shampoo, medicated shampoo, 2-in-1 shampoo, mild baby shampoo, basic beauty shampoo, premium conditioning shampoo, and clarifying shampoo. We will come to that. Forms of shampoos: clear liquid shampoo, liquid cream shampoo, gel shampoo, and powder shampoo. Right? So these are the shampoos. We will see some of them. Right? So shampoo 2-in-1. What is 2-in-1? Shampoo with conditioner. Right? So shampoo with conditioner. This is the general shampoo which is currently available in the market, 2-in-1. Right? Nobody sells a shampoo without a conditioner now. All shampoo with conditioner. Now we will get into the building blocks of a shampoo. 2-in-1 is shampoo plus conditioner. Right? Primary surfactants, primary foaming agents may be alkyl sulfate, sodium lauryl sulfate, ammonium lauryl sulfate, alkyl ether sulfate, sodium lauryl ether sulfate, ammonium lauryl ether sulfate. These are all non-ionic, these are all anionic surfactants. These are all anionic surfactants. They are all available at about 30% active detergent levels. At 30% active detergent level, about 50% can be used in shampoo. 45 to 50%. Secondary surfactants, right, that synergistically work with the primary surfactant in improving the foaming characteristics of the shampoo or reducing the irritation potential of the shampoo and also improve the rheological properties of the shampoo. Secondary surfactants: sarcosinates, taurides, glutamates, sulfosuccinates. Examples: cocoamidopropyl betaine, amphositates, alkyl polyglucosides, non-ionic. No? So, if you go through the surfactants in the building blocks, all these things have been completely discussed. Generally, in a mass shampoo, cocoamidopropyl betaine, CAPB, it's also available at about 30% active detergent level, is used along with the primary surfactants. Right? So, cocoamidopropyl betaine is generally used. We discussed this in the face wash, body washes. So cocoamidopropyl betaine and alkyl sulfates synergize together and the viscosity increases, right? So generally sulfates are used with cocoamidopropyl betaine in most of the shampoos, about 5 to 10%. Then foam boosters and foam stabilizers, right? Cocoa monoethanolamide and cocoa diethanolamide, amine oxides at 1 to 2%. Opacifiers and pearlizers. If it is a clear shampoo, clear gel shampoo, opacifiers are not, or pearlizers are not used. If it is a opaque cream shampoo, opacifiers and pearlizers are used. Ethylene glycol monostearate or pearl pigments, no, at 0.5 to 2%. Then rheology modifiers. Sodium chloride, when sulfates and cocoamidopropyl betaines are used, sodium chloride increases the viscosity. If not, the xanthan gum, carbamers, cellulose polymers, PG stearates, all those things quantity sufficient is used. Conditioners, vegetable and egg proteins and amino acids, vitamins like panthenol, that is one. Very, very important, quaternary polymers, quaternized guar for wet conditioning, silicones for dry conditioning. Quantity sufficient. Chelating agents, EDTA disodium salts are used as a chelating agent. Preservatives, isothiophenols, parabens, benzoates, sorbates. pH modifying agent, either sodium hydroxide if you want the alkaline range, citric acid when you read the acid range, color and perfume, DC dyes and perfume, right, and demineralized water. Anti-dandruff agents, selenium sulfide, zinc pyrithione, pyroxenolamine, climbazole, these are all anti-dandruff agents that are used in the shampoos. See, shampoo 2-in-1, preparation of these shampoos, it's a very simple preparation. It's a mixing vessel, propeller mixer, you can have a circulation. So you have to see that the mixing has to be gentle, the aeration is not happening. So basically you have to take DM water, demineralized water in the main vessel, then add the with mixing the primary surfactants, the secondary surfactants mixing, then the foam boosters, foam stabilizers, then rheology modifiers, conditioners, chelating agents one by one. You can dissolve this in water and add. But when you are adding opacifying agent, ethylene glycol monostearate, what happens? You have to, this is a waxy material, so you have to take part of this anionic surfactants, some 5% of that, heat and with 5%, 10% water, and then add ethylene glycol monostearate to that mixture, heat it to 75 degrees and form the suspension with the opacifier, and then add this to the main bulk. That's what you have to do when you are using any waxy material. If you are using waxy material, then that waxy material has to be melted with the part of the surfactant, blended well, and then added to the main mixer. So the product can be made if the waxy material, it's a gel shampoo where no waxy material is there, then you can make the entire shampoo through cold process, right? It's a simple method of preparation. So this is the general backbone of a current mass shampoo, right? Most of the shampoos are built in this backbone. One thing here is, so what are the things? Primary surfactants, secondary surfactants, foam boosters and stabilizers, opacifiers and pearlizers if it's a cream shampoo, rheology modifiers, conditioners, chelating agents, preservatives, pH modifying agents, color and perfume, of course water, right? These are all the ingredients for shampoo. Now the one thing in this shampoo is we have anionic surfactants, and we are using, all the shampoos have quaternary polymers. Okay, so anionics and cationics are used together in shampoos. How? Right? Cationic polymers and anionic surfactant paired in a single system would normally be incompatible, producing an insoluble complex that would precipitate. It was found, however, that at some ratio of surfactant to cationic polymer, when the surfactant is in excess, the precipitate could be redissolved to form a clear solution. When anionic concentration is above the critical Meisel concentration, CMC, the complex is solubilized to form a stable emulsion. But if anionic concentration is brought below its CMC, the complex will become insoluble precipitate. And so, in a 2-in-1 shampoo, the anionic surfactant level is very, very high, and cationic surfactant level is 1%, 1 to 2%. So what happens? This cationic polymer complex with anionic surfactant and gets solubilized. Part of the anionic surfactants and gets solubilized. So it doesn't precipitate. That's how it works. While the polymer surfactant complex gives their hair excellent wet conditioning, silicones provide superior dry benefits, imparting unusual silkiness and softness to the hair. So most of the current mass shampoos contain cationic polymers or quaternized guar and silicones, right? This is the point to note. Now, I am bringing a point. See, hair build up and clarifying shampoos. It's going to be a big presentation compared to the others, but hair build up and clarifying shampoo. What happens when you use 2-in-1 shampoos regularly? The cationics and silicones keep on depositing on the hair and some in the scalp. What happens? It's called the build-up effect. So this build-up effect is not advisable, right? So India, people are not using clarifying shampoos, but clarifying shampoos are very, very important. At least once in fortnight you have to use clarifying shampoo. What is a clarifying shampoo? Very, very important. It just has primary surfactants, secondary surfactants, foam boosters, rheology modifiers, chelating agent, preservatives, pH, color, perfume, water. It doesn't have the conditioners that deposit on the hair and scalp. So clarifying shampoos have to be used to remove all the things that has built up on the hair over a period of time. If you have a shampooing habit thrice a week, then or every day, then if you have a shampooing habit every day, at least once in a week, you have to use clarifying shampoos. Or if it is alternate days, then you have to use clarifying shampoo once in 15 days, so that all the things that has built up on your hair and scalp is completely removed. These are the list of the quaternary polymers that are available. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 10 polyquaternium, right? This is for your, you can stop and see it whenever you want. This is the list, and this is the list continuing, right? These are all the various polyquaterniums available, right? And these are all the examples of silicones. Examples, there are more. So this is a micro emulsion, right? This is a silicone micro emulsion. This is PG7 amodimethicone. This is a cationic silicone. So this is also hydrophobically modified silicone. This is a This is a micro emulsion, silicone micro emulsion. This is a silicone macro emulsion. See, they have found that macro emulsion deposits silicones exceedingly well also. This is you have to put in your product and see. Large particle size silicone emulsion. This is also a macro emulsion. This is a clear micro emulsion. Right? I have given some of the examples, on their application. You can pause the video and you can go through this. Shampoo. Another shampoo, water, sodium laureth sulfate, sodium lauryl sulfate, SLES and SLS, glycol distearate, it's a pacifier, dimethicone, silicone, cocoamido propyl betaine, sulfate and betaine, sodium citrate, cocamide MEA, cocomonoethanolamide, foam booster and foam stabilizer, sodium xylene sulfonate, sodium xylene sulfonate. So, sodium xylene sulfonate is a hydrotrope. Hydrotrope increases the solubility of other ingredients in water. That is sodium xylene sulfonate. Of course, fragrance, citric acid, sodium citrate, buffer, sodium benzoate, preservative, guar, hydroxypropyl trimonium chloride. This is the quaternized guar. Sodium chloride, tetrasodium EDTA, panthenol, panthenyl ether, these are all the conditioning. So, methyl chloroisothiazolone and methyl isothiazolone is a preservative, right? So, it has dimethicone silicones with sulfate and cocoamido propyl betaine with cocamide MEA foam stabilizer with a hydrotrope with guar, quaternized guar as a cationic conditioner, right? This is shampoo 2-in-1 which is also traditional. Example of a sulfate free shampoo. Now in the market slowly people are coming out with sulfate free, that is SLES, sodium lauryl ether sulfate, ammonium lauryl ether sulfate, sodium lauryl sulfate, sodium lauryl ether sulfate free shampoo in the market. So one such example, this is the rheology modifier, guar conditioner. This is a combination water, sodium lauryl methyl isothianate, cocoamido propyl betaine, sodium cocyl isothianate. This is a combination. Isilux SO, surfactant at 40%, cocoamido propyl betaine separately 2%, acetamide MEA, monoethanolamide 1.5, dimethicone, PCA dimethicone cross polymer and water. These are all dimethicone. Right, this is a conditioner, 0.5, perfume and preservatives, quantity sufficient. Sulfate free shampoo, it's very difficult, it's a challenging thing to get the proper conditioning system into a sulfate free shampoo and to get the desired rheological properties and to get the correct foam and cleansing properties and to formulate at an affordable cost. Okay. So, sulfates, sodium lauryl ether sulfate, sodium lauryl sulfate, ammonium lauryl ether sulfate and ammonium lauryl sulfate with cocoamido propyl betaine. This combination gives a very good shampoo and it's you can formulate a shampoo at a very economical cost, right? But when you go to sulfate free shampoos, the challenges are to get the correct conditioning benefit, to get the correct foam, to get the correct rheological properties and to get the cost right. These are the challenges. Another example for a sulfate free shampoo, water, carbapol, rheology modifier, disodium EDTA, lauryl glucoside, a non-ionic surfactant, caprylyl glycoside, it's a glucoside based shampoo, lauryl glucoside and stearyl citrate 4%, potassium hydroxide for pH adjustment, cetyl PEG, PPG 10 dimethicone conditioning agent 1, cocamide MEA. See here in this shampoo there are no cationics, right? It's only non-ionic based shampoo mostly, and then with dimethicone conditioning, right? Sulfate free shampoo. This is one shampoo. Is it clear for you? So it's a sulfate free shampoo in the market containing cocobetane, disodium laureth sulfosuccinate, sodium cocyl isocyanate, sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, sodium lauryl sarcosinate, glycol distearate opacifying. These are all the surfactants. Then sodium chloride, disyl glucosides, fragrance, polyquaternium 10. Polyquaternium 10 is a quaternary compound used. Amidimethicone. Amodimethicone is the silicone used here. Okay. PPG 5, CTUTS 20, hydrogenated coconut acid. So PEG 55, propylene glycol, all those things are used. But here the main surfactants are cocobetane, disodium laureth sulfosuccinate, sodium cocyl isocyanate, sodium lauryl sulfoacetate, sodium lauryl sarcosinate, opacified with glycol distearate, the shampoo, sodium chloride, disyl glucoside is another surfactant with polyquaternium 10 as cationic and amodimethicone as the silicone. Right? This is the combination. It has all the other things, preservatives and other rheology modifying agents. Right? This is a sulfate free shampoo. Cost, you can't match the cost of a typical sulfate cocoamidopropylbutane based shampoo. Right? The rheological properties and the conditioning benefits, you have to match it. Right? Yet another shampoo, powder shampoo. So typically you can use for shigakai based shampoo and all dry shampoos. Sodium lauryl sulfate, sodium lauryl sarcosinate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium sulfate fillers and perfume. So this is a typical powder shampoo. Right? You can use this base and add shigakai and all those things to have a powder herbal shampoos. Okay. Now evaluation of shampoos. Safety, skin and eyes. Now cell line techniques are used as a substitute for animal study that is banned for cosmetic products. Skin and eyes, safety studies. So it can't be used on animals. It has to be used in cell lines. You have to do cell line studies to ensure the safety. Active detergent level, measure of level of foaming agents added, that is the active detergent level. Viscosity, volume of foam, quality of foam and foam stability. Cleansing ability using artificial sebum. Sebum is oil secreted by skin and scalp, right? Performance on hair, that is hair sheen and hair conditioning benefits. Actives assay, if you have used any anti-dandruff ingredients or any actives, you have to evaluate the content of the active, right? Whether it is stable in that base. Actives efficacy evaluation, for example, anti-dandruff shampoo, you have to evaluate the anti-dandruff efficacy, hair color protection shampoo, etc. Right? So these are the various factors used to evaluate a shampoo. Right? Of course, the standard thing, viscosity, pH. pH is another property. Right? Then perfume and perfume stability. and the performance, know how the perfume comes out, how the perfume stays on the hair, all those aspects also. These are all the evaluation of shampoos during the development stage. Most of these things during the product development stage, or when you compare your product with the competitors, some of the performance here. So if you claim that your product is going to strengthen the hair, then there are other tests, tensile strength, whether it is improving. When you go through the hair part, so we have separately discussed on the hair what are the parameters that has to be measured for how the hair properties can change, and by what parameters you can measure that. So you have to go back to that also. This is what I want to share with you in shampoos. I was little fast in this shampoo. Thank you for listening to me in this video. Thank you, and till I get connected with you in the next part. Bye. Be smiling, be happy.